In 1981, there was a Sheldon family gathering in celebration of Grandpa's 95th birthday. We will conclude with a few pictures and parts of a recording made on that occasion. The pictures were taken by Frank Eugene and his wife Bobby, and the recording and interview were done by Gary Priebe, husband of Betty Sheldon Priebe. First, we all met at Knott's Berry Farm for lunch. Then we went on to Fred and Kathy's place in Fullerton.
Happy birthday! Fine. How are you?
Man, they worked me over today. I never had a day like this in my life. Birthday. I sure am.
Yes.
I hope you have a wonderful and very happy birthday. Jack?
No. Yeah, Jack and Gloria.
Jack and Gloria.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Jack and Gloria. Hey.
And then you got mine inside.
I got another one in here.
You hid that one.
No.
Yeah, what'd you do with it? Yes, you have, right here.
Get it out for you. What are you doing, Mom?
I'm dressing. Your mother.
Supposed to
Norman, you know your mom.
There you are. Might find a trouser mouse in there. That's right there.
Trying to get the button. Not playing around, kids. I know my kids. Mine.
Now, wait a minute.
I can't button it.
Did you hear that, Bob? You're not like that.
No, not much.
Yes, I've hunted them things. Love the beaver and love.
I think they're
Duck.
Now don't spit it all in one place.
Well, look at here. Hey. Thank you, thank you. Oh, they're worthless things. From Catherine and Frank. Sometimes
Look without his glasses, Ken.
are those we keep inside.
Yeah, me too.
To ever-present feeling of affection and pride. And though you're seldom mentioned, they are most sincerely for their special compliments that you aspired all year. Happy birthday, love and Frank. Thank you a million. Thank you a million, dear. Well, I had a lot of them, but I had the reputation, that they couldn't ride my train, see. And,
The IWW.
yeah. I got a call out of Denver to go in over the 40 cutoff, and but before we got out of Denver, these bums started getting on the train.
The IWW.
I don't know whether they was
Just
IWW,
bums.
but they were bums, you know.
Like hobos?
Yeah, hobos. And I couldn't tell what they were. They're just men, you know. See.
You'd see them jump on the train?
Yeah, and I told my brakeman, I said, I don't want none of these guys. That's the fast train from New Orleans to the Pacific Northwest. See, comes through Denver. There's chickens on there, from chicken farms, banana cars, all kinds of fruit that comes from the worm country. Well, they got him pretty well clicked off, and I kicked one off, and he went off in the dark like that, and I said, don't come back. But he went down the line, see. So I got on top of the train, train used to go to Greeley in 1 hour, 50 miles. And I was on one end of the car, and he comes up on the other end of the car. And I heard one of the bums said, that guy gets you, fella, he said, for what you done. He said, he'll get you, like that. But I didn't pay attention to that. You hear so much of that kind of stuff. So I started to walk down that way, and when he got about 3 feet from him, he ducked down, just like this to go into me, you see. So I fall on his shoulder, and he would throw me overboard. And I knew that. When he got to me, I raised his knee up and knocked him up and grabbed him in the shirt. With the momentum, took him up over my head like that, and I turned him down and throwed him right overboard out of there. brakeman, tail end brakeman come up. He says, Sheldon, he says, I believe he killed him.
Yeah, he was going to try and kill you, though.
Yeah. So we sat there and talked quite a while, and I said one thing, you must remember, dead men don't tell tales. Yes, he says, that's right. He said, I'm worried. He said, I'm worried. I said, well, don't you worry. Don't you worry. I said, where there's a will, there's a way. I said, we're running the train. It's against the law to put a man off of a train when it's running. So we went to Laramie. We didn't hear anything, but the two brakemen were scared about it. And just before I got my train, I called my southbound train back to Denver. The yardmaster come running. He said, get the hell out of here. He says, they're looking for you. Just like that. And so we had already given the highball, and Hogler had his orders, and we pulled out. He didn't stop. No, I looked for somebody on the train, you know. I took my gun with me then. I thought if they'd hired some guy on there, you better look out. If I was going to get in a trouble like that, I was going to take some of them with me. So we went on.
Was it the IWW?
No.
Just friends of his?
That would be the law. No.
Oh, the law, okay.
Yeah, the law. So we went on, went into Denver. We got there, and there was a big headline. Brakeman throws a man off a train.
Brakeman?
Yeah, Denver Post. Big headline. And first thing my folks said, you know, was that you? I said, no, I have to know more about it. And,
was that your train? Was it? Yeah. They were asking you?
So after I got settled down, there was an order to come to the depot, down to the railroad office. And we got down there, and they went to tell them the story. So I told them our story. And I told them, I said, we have cars burned up, we have seals broken, we have stuff stolen. It's against the rules to people ride. Anyone that says gets on the right way is on private property, and that is my defense, you know. And so they went ahead, and this county of the northeast was the one, because I throwed him off in that county, you see. So they was the one. They had it in for the railroad anyway. They didn't like the railroad.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and they was looking for something. I suppose maybe get a lot of money, you know, to save me or something like that. So it went ahead, and when they got done, the superintendent of the railroad company, he says, this man, he says, runs a train and runs it like we want it run. And he says he sees to it that every Tom, Dick, and Harry doesn't ride and break seals, steal it, set cars on fire when they get cold and burn up stuff and stuff like that. And he says we'll spend all the money the Union Pacific's got. Well, they had this guy here that probably had him sewed up and patched up. And then he called me a name and said, I'll get you.
Who did they have sewed up?
The one that I throwed off of the train.
Oh, so he didn't die.
No, he didn't die.
I see. So
what he done, he would have died if he hadn't happened to hit a bunch of tires like this, a glancing lake. And that took his scalp off here, and they'd sewed that back and patched him up. But he had hit there on that sharp edge and just turned that right off. See?
I see.
And that his neck gave away, and then he fell down. How long he stayed there, I don't know. But anyway, they had him tied up the time we got back to Denver, and so the superintendent says we'll spend everything the railroad's got, and he said, well, then we'll prosecute too, see where they go. Well, that scared the county, and the county withdrew, and the thing settled. But this fellow said to me, went out, he says, USB, I'll get you. I said, I'll kill you on sight. Don't you ever get I said in my sight, I'll kill you in sight. And and I carried my old 40 for a long time.
48?
Yeah, 41 I mean, 41 Colts.
41 Colts.
Yeah, that's, the 45 hadn't come in yet.
Oh.
Now they try to take my train out of Greeley, Colorado, coming into Denver, and there's 150 of them. And
150 what?
hobos.
Oh, is that right?
IWW. And they was all going to get on the top and show people what they could do, you know. And as more poor people would join them. You see, that's the way they'd get people into the IWW, the International Workers of the World. And so.
And this was in the 30s.
Yeah. And I wired Denver. I was right out there with them. And I told him, I said, you ain't going to make it. I said, it'll be over my dead body. I said, there's no IWW going to run my train. And so I sent him word, and I told him, and they sent out the big horse. Where they have the hounds and the guns, sharpshooters, and all the equipment of the battle, that kind of stuff. And they come out, and of course they cleaned the thing off, fired the first shots, and they hit them so close that they knew they meant business, so they commenced to get off. And they got off. I got on my train. I got a good letter from them. I don't know whatever become of it, but I had a good letter from that too. But I wouldn't, if they hadn't done it, I just wouldn't take the train. I wasn't going to ride in with a bunch like that. If they'd have fired me, it'd have been all right.
So anyhow, then you came to East LA after you left the railroads?
East Los Angeles? No, after I left the railroad, let's see. I went to Wichita Falls, Texas. That's where I went. I quit the Santa Fe, and I went down there. And I was doing pretty good. I could get us out. They wanted to give me a train on the Santa Fe, and I wouldn't take it, because I made up mind to done railroading, you know. See. But I had to go through the war because they froze me there. That is the First World War, you know. See. After I left Texas the first time from El Paso, and my number was number 84 on the draft. And I had made a bid. See, I was mechanical, and they had a hard time in those days, you know. I run truck 46 as a civilian for the government, see, in El Paso, Texas, during, what is it, the bad man down there, what is his name?
The Mexican?
Yeah, Mexican general.
Yeah, Pancho Villa.
Pancho Villa, that's the guy. And so, and I hauled soldiers there on a stage line to Fort Bliss, from El Paso to Fort Bliss. And so they got to going because we make good time, you know. Then the law gets in. The law down there is crooked as anybody in Texas, you know. And so they got to fining us. They had a law in Texas, if you drove over 18 miles an hour, it's $1 over 18 miles an hour. So when we going out to Fort Bliss, you know, we'd exceed that speed. So they say, well, if he'd have been going so-and-so, and they added up a lot to get our money away from us. See.
You were driving a truck?
No, driving a car, hauling passengers.
Cars, okay.
Soldiers, back and to and fro. We go out there and get a load, come back, shuttle back and forward.
Back from where?
Between El Paso and Fort Bliss.
Fort Bliss.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so they was going to take us, and we got the word, see. So me and this fella, he was a gunman too. We pulled out of there. Well, then they called. The law told them that we owed them money for this 18 months, what you call it. They framed that on us, see. So me and this guy, we loaded up our guns and took off to the border. And we got to the border, we turned our cars around, and the law come up, and we said, gentlemen, you're just a little bit too late. The lion is right out there, and we've got the gun, you better turn around and go back. they had, was going to let the first volley go, and then if they put their gun, went to shoot it, then we'd shoot it for real.
Hi, Grandpa.
When did you move to East LA? What year?
The East LA, wait a minute. These days sometimes.
Before World War II?
We come in there about, let's see, 1926.
Oh, before the Depression.
1926. And I left my drilling rig in Texas. Left it in Texas.
So you moved your family to East Los Angeles?
Yeah, because I'd bought a home out here for them.
Oh, I see. Were you working on the railroads then?
No, I didn't. I left railroads. Left railroads for good.
Why did you come out to East Los Angeles?
We come out here to get them in a good climate.
I see.
And then the company that I was with, they had their offices here too.
What company was that?
The Bryan Brothers Oil Company.
Oh, okay.
And they wanted me to come here. I did drill another well, but I walked away from $30,000 on it. Now the south of Albuquerque on the Tomei land grant. These things I'm telling you can go to the record because us fellows was recorded in the record. All of the formations as we went down. We'd run core barrels and show you what was in the earth. A core barrel was run down like that, and it had round teeth on it, and it spun around. See, you drill 8 or 10 or 15 or 20 feet, then you'd pull it back up and shove that thing out. Now you'd find out whether it was the Taylor Moores or the whatever formation that was, identify it by the fossilization that was in that core. And then to be recorded at certain feet. And my name is on the record. I expect if you'd go to that, what you call it, you'd find in the record F.A. Sheldon drilling 2 wells, one for the city of Gallup and one for the school company, 1 mile east of Gallup.
Did you ever drill in Los Angeles?
No. I drilled a well out of Bakersfield, shallow oil field, and I forgot the name of that little town too. Out there 45 miles northeast of Bakersfield. You might know that name of that town.
So where did you work after that?
The next well, south of Bakersfield, out on the prairie. And I had nothing to do with that well, except they had acreage there, and they wanted money, see. And I raised a certain amount of money for them, and I got 80 acres of land.
They gave it to you?
What's that?
They gave you?
Yeah, they gave me 80 acres of land near this lease. And these fellows was crazy about that. And I was always superstitious about it. Because they didn't sound like real oil men, see. When they had me and another fellow, he had oil rights down here in some of these old wells that's drilling down here yet. His name was Kerr. He had rights in that. And so I had this 80 acres out there, and I had one of my pipe dreams, and it seemed like it says, Sheldon, you better go out and look at that thing. So I went out there, and the trail was shut down. And I said to the fellow, well, what's the matter? Oh, he said, we got an oil show. I said, an oil show? He says, yeah. I went out there. Now, in an oil show, if the oil is live, you can see it around the side. But if it's dead oil, no so. Now, they had shotgunned that well. They poured that in there to go out and rob more people. I turned around and came right back. They had a man now that come from the biggest country in the world. That was Texas at that time, putting on how many thousands of barrels of oil. all these oil companies, Standard was the oil, I could tell you a lot about Standard, and that's too long a story. But anyway, I've got a recommend to write from Standard Oil. So I went back to town and I called one of the fellows there, and he said, "Oh, Sheldon," he said, "you're wrong. You're wrong." Now I knew he didn't know he never drilled any wells. He fooled around and bought oil stock and stuff like that, you know. Maybe bought some acreage and all this stuff. And I said, "Do you really think you're right?" And he said, "Yes, I do." Well, I said, "I don't think you are." He says, he says, "I don't think you are." I said, "Are you ready to buy oil on the showing they got out there?" He said, "You're damn right," just like that. He says, "What do you want?" I said, I want for this 80 acres, I want $3,000. $3,000. And I said, "I want it in $100 bills. I want no check. And I'll meet you in a restaurant here in Los Angeles, had a reputation in those days. We'd meet there, and with that money. We sat in there, and they're handing out this thing in $100 bills, and the waitress says, "Do you fellas do this every morning for breakfast?" Well, we said nearly every morning. That's a joke, you know. But I drove that up and put that in my pocket. You talk about a bunch of guys that later on, one of them would never speak to me again. I didn't trim him. He trimmed himself. I told him, give him the advice, and told him how to tell the difference in a shotgun well. You know, we used to have what we call shotgun mines. They used to go over
Salted mines.
and it'd be on the breast here, you know. The breast is in front of that, and they get back and take the gold, fire it in there. Then they go over and take this out and run it to the assay, and the assay runs $15 a ton. And this guy, this sucker, would buy the stuff. He'd go in and go to drilling, and the first round of shots told what his gold back there, and they never got to run again, see.
Who did you work for when you retired?
When I retired?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean when I quit? I didn't work for anybody.
So you've always worked for yourself?
Well,
After the tool company?
You mean when I retired from the oil business?
How long ago was that? What year did you retire from the oil business? What year?
From the oil business?
What year?
1930, when the big panic come on. You remember that?
Depression.
No, we weren't born. Okay. You were.
In 1930, it went 10 years. You remember your president? I was there. We had enough money. Our home was paid for in Los Angeles, so we didn't have to rent and in that kind of business.
What business were you in then, during the Depression years?
Nothing. That's what I started. We started school in engineering.
Mm.
And then they hired out then.
In Los Angeles?
Yeah. Then they hired out to the city of Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a letter from them. All of this stuff that I got, you know, I got letters for. All my railroading, the Rio Grande, the Santa Fe, Union Pacific, see, Colorado Southern. I get letters from it. Tell you, they don't say much. They just say work is satisfactory. But the buffalo, here's a storm, and the cattle drift right along the ground and freeze to death of those cattle. But the buffalo heads in the storm like this here, and the storm passes on, and he's eating grass on the other side of it. Make sense?
Yeah.
It sure does. And it's true. Because I've hunted from the Gulf of Mexico to the 56th meridian in British Columbia. And I've killed 21 deer, 6 elk, and 1 moose. I could cut a hole like that in 100 yards. Hit a man's heart every time I wanted.
What kind of gun did you use?
A 72 Winchester. Drives a bullet at 3,100 feet per second.
Wow.
It's right here. It's right in this building. You look at the gun and you'll find 220 rounds of ammunition that I loaded. I loaded my own. I could put the amount of powder in there that I wanted to put in it and drive that bullet up to 3,400. If you get too high and the bullet will explode in the air if it hits something. I think you know a lot about guns.
So does he.
The trajectory of my gun, on account of my age, was a little better than your AUG-6 because it's a little flatter, see, at the same distance. You'd get at 400 yards in the AUG-6, I used about 9 or 10 inches lower than mine was. And I don't claim that a man can kill an animal 100 yards away and with an eye over that. I use a Sheldon 6-power scope. Now then, I was looking for oil land, and I was in Louisiana. And I drove my car out in the wilderness where there's supposed to be an oil dome. I drove into the town, and I went to the door and knocked, and nobody came to the door. And I looked in the crack of the door, and there was a woman looking out the crack of the door. Well, then I walked away, but I walked away with my looking glass. Now, in that country, you carried the looking glass to see whether the guy was going to pull a gun on you. I went to my Buick, got in the Buick, took it up a little ways, settled down, and started out over what was called this dome country. I got out there about a mile and a little more, and all at once I heard a hound. Howl, howl, just like that. And I knew that this was a trained dog. Now that dog ain't going to bother me. He's going to parallel me off here one side about 100 yards away, and that, keep barking. You take your looking glass, and here's the guy with a gun across his shoulder, about 200 yards behind you. So you keep your looking glass up here, and your handy gun, too, see down here. Just keep it walking, and watching. Well, he followed me all the way back to this little 3 or 4 blacksmith shop. And on my Buick it says, "Don't let the sun shine on you here." Now then they started this same thing with these people in Illinois when they started the churches. They didn't want the church there. They didn't want you to know there was a God there. And they started in bless and harm these people. Now I'm not an old timer in the lodge. And I'm an old-timer in this world. And I met lots of people, all kinds, good, bad, black, white, from Japan, all over the world. And you study people, and you find bad ones and good ones and all of them. Now then, they went after them, and then people were drove out in that country. Now, I railroaded through the very same country that these people, and I followed their trail. And I'm a kind of a nosy guy. When I hear something like that, I stick my nose over it. It wasn't none of my business. But I heard the story on that thing there that'd make you cry. For one woman, given birth to a little child, and the people was in such shape that the only thing they had to cover in the cold rain in that country. And when they got down, the child was living, but the mother was dead. So then, of course, I followed their trails too, you know, across their trails. And I was in touch, you know, with people like Jim Bridger and Ken Beckwith and those fellows living in their time. And I can name about 30 tribes of Indians in this country. And as I told you before, I've been as close to Buffalo Bill as I am to you folks here sitting here. Now then, I'm going to tell you this thing here, how I got where I am now. Maybe I'll close it. Maybe I'll give it tired yet. But anyhow, my wife went blind. She got glaucoma. We had what we thought was enough fortune to keep us the rest of our lives. For 17 or 18 long years, I sat by her side, her in total darkness. Never left her more than 2 hours and quit everything in the world. Didn't make a dollar. 17 years. And we lived it down to $25,000. My wife came from a family that lived from hand to mouth. the kind of people, you know, that work on a week time and have a good time on Sunday. But I was always a guy that always saved. That's my advice to anybody. Don't save, can't save very much, save a little, keep it up. So finally, when I was outside, my wife had passed away, and I sat there, and a fellow come along, and he said to me, he says, "You working on your camper?" That camper sits right outside out here, and I said, "Yeah." He says, "You know, I've seen a lot of these here," he says, "but he says, I never saw the inside of them, and I'd like to go in and see." I said, "Help yourself, go right ahead." There's a stove in there, and bath, and toilet, everything, I said, ready to live. You can live in there. He went in there, and he come out, and he said, "Well, the expense," he says, "that I'm thinking about," he says, "riding," he says, "you know, you can ride a Volkswagen," he says, "make 30 miles to the gallon." He said, "This must take a lot of it." I said, I've challenged the guy. I said, "Why?" I said, "Well, I'm an engineer, and the Volkswagen isn't charged to the road, see?" So I filled up on gas, and when we got down there, he was supposed to eat the same thing, and he was honest, that I eat and sleep and all that kind of stuff. We slept in our camper. He had a T-bone steak. He went over and paid $14 for a room, and when he bought his T-bone steak, it cost him $2.75. It cost you $4 or $5 now. And when he got done, the camper out there had paid him by 90 cents. And we didn't have to go through all of that kind of stuff. It was all wrapped up. All we had to do was go and park it, get in there and cook our supper and go to sleep, and that is it. So he sat there, and he says, you talk like a Mormon." I said, "What's wrong with that?" "Well," he says, "nothing." I said, "Would you like to join?" I said, "Why not?" He says, "We don't fool around." He says, "If you want to join," I said, "you do your part," and I said, "I'll do mine." And they sent their men in there. Now I went in there, and of course I wasn't any church member or anything like that. But when they come to the door, they was 15 minutes late. And here's what I said to them. I said, "Boys," I said, "you said you'd be here at 1 o'clock," and I said, "You're 15 minutes late." I said, when you say 1 o'clock, I said, by this whole railroad watch of mine, it means 1 o'clock. It don't mean 1:15. And I said, the man that's waiting there is very impatient and very doubtful about what you got to say. That's me. And they looked at one another, and I said, "Well, now you proceed." But I said, "Don't do it again." I said, "Is it a nice thing?" I said, "Ain't you supposed to tell people what you do and do it?" "Yes." "All right." The next day I said, "I don't want it 1 minute 10, I want it so-and-so." And I pull this railroad watch, and they come to the door, and they knocked on the door, they're right on it. So I opened the door, "Come on in, gentlemen." Now the gun. There's a lot of bad people running around at that time. And they was doing all kinds of things. You know, they tore up East Los Angeles. Did you ever hear of that?
What year was this?
Oh, that's back in what they call them? You folks know all about that. When they had them guys going barefooted around and women was running around and everything else. That happened a few years back. You sure have heard about that.
The riots, you mean?
Huh? The what?
You talking about riots?
Whatever they call it, I don't know what they call it. You know about it, don't you? Remember about it? And anyway, whenever they come to the door or anything like that, I always had my gun. Because they killed a couple of people out of Hemet there. They went to the door and they shot the man. And
Is this when you lived in Montebello?
what's that?
This is when you lived in Montebello.
Well, I'm talking about this at Hemet now.
Oh, Hemet.
Yeah.
Oh, Hemet.
But we're living in Montebello now. So we went there and we went through our stuff with the church, and I joined the church. And I've never been treated, an orphan boy, ever as nice as I've been in this church. I got more brothers and sisters than 1,000 of them guys running around over the world will ever have. I mean that, and I believe in it. I've got good books that tells the same story that I've been telling you. I got a book that tells you the very same thing.